under the law, a community that's not a 55 and over community, you can't discriminate against people with children. You can't discriminate against families. But if you're a 55 and over community, you are allowed to discriminate against families.
Fair housing laws. Everybody knows they exist, but not everybody really understands them. So to help us navigate all of that legal jargon so we don't get in legal trouble, or we get to understand a little bit more how to support our associations, we have here Rafael from Affinity, a management company that supports HOAs. And we also have the legal powerhouse of Eric. And I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves so you guys do a way better job than me. So let's start with Rafa.
Sure. So I'll introduce. My name is Rafael Aquino. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Affinity Management Services. We're a community association management company focused on helping our board members execute their vision through our proven process: align, execute, deliver. We've been doing it now for 18 years, really passionate about the industry, passionate about providing education, and really giving the information that's necessary to make the lives of the community so they could have a well-lived community association.
Thank you, Rafael, and thanks for having me here today.
Thank you, Eric.
My name is Eric Glazer. I'm an attorney board certified by the Florida Bar in Community and Plan Development Law. I've been practicing 32 years with the law firm of Glazer and Sachs. Certified about 27,000 board members throughout the state to be board members in the state of Florida. I'm a circuit court mediator as well, and I have the Condo Craze and HOAs show that I've been doing for the last 15, 16 years on YouTube. It can be found at condocrazeandhoas.com. And most importantly, I hope you can't tell I can't breathe in this jacket. I know you're going to edit that out, but they're going to edit that out. So now you can move on. Little humor doesn't hurt.
Yeah, no, at all.
Now we're loose.
I'm just a homeowner. My name is Diana, and I'm here with lots of questions from communities just to tap into your knowledge and to learn how to do better and grow. So are you guys ready?
That's right.
Awesome. So what is the Fair Housing Act, and how does it apply to HOAs?
Okay. Me take it?
Yeah, go
okay.
for it.
So in terms of Florida, where we deal with the Fair Housing Act most is what's called housing for older persons. And I think, as you know, we kind of have some older persons in Florida, right? People are retiring here all the
Florida?
time. I am an older person. I'm now old enough to live in one of those communities. So in 55 and over communities, a lot of people retire here to live in a community where there's no children. That's what living in a 55 and over community means. It means that under the law, you typically can't discriminate against children. You have to let children move into any community. But when you're housing for older persons, you can say, okay, no children are allowed to live here under the age of 18. So that's generally what we're going to be talking about today.
Got it. Yeah, no, and there's a lot of other gray spaces in fair housing for discrimination.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We can talk about a million of those topics.
Correct.
If somebody has,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Raphael.
No.
If somebody is maybe ill and they ask for what's called an accommodation, a reasonable accommodation, under the Fair Housing Act, as a management company, you must get that all day long.
Yeah, and especially now, and it's important to know this information because we're seeing the 55 and older communities expand, especially in Palm Beach, Broward, even more so now on the west coast of Florida, in the Naples, Lee County, Tampa area, where you have much more land. You're seeing these communities pop up, especially that the baby boomers are now coming into retirement. They want to enjoy their life. And so you're seeing a lot more developers focused on that space.
So it seems like 55 what is it called?
55
plus
yeah.
communities. They're a thing here in Florida, right?
Big
Yeah,
thing.
big
Yeah,
thing, yeah.
absolutely.
What are some of the challenges that you see as it pertains to fair housing? What's
Sure.
going on?
The first thing is you have to get there, right? How do you become one? And a lot of times, associations will think we're a 55 and over community. And I'll say, well, let me see your documents. Let me see your declaration. You have seen, and all of a sudden, no, there's nothing in here that says you're a 55 and over community. So anytime you just now discriminate against children, you're setting yourself up to be a defendant at the defense table in a federal court courtroom. So first thing we got to figure out is, are you 55 and over community? You know, did you do the right things in order to get there? And a lot of times we need help from you to do that.
Yep. It's important that you're keeping what's going on, the surveys that you're supposed to be doing about every 2 years, right, Eric? For the community, because if you aren't doing these surveys, you could actually lose your designation of being a 55 and older community. So if that's something that's very important to you, then it's important that you're going through that process itself.
Yeah, so let's talk about, if you don't mind, how we get there.
That's
right?
what I was going to ask.
Yeah,
was
how do you
how
get
do you
there?
how do you become one?
So it's got to be in your governing documents. It's got to be in your declaration of condominium that says, we intend to be housing for older persons. And what does it mean? It means that at least one person in 80% of the units is age 55 and over, okay? At least one person in 88% of the units are age 55 and over. So a lot of times boards will freak out. Someone wants to buy the unit and they're only 35 years old. We're gonna stop them. We're gonna prevent it. And you can't prevent them from doing it. Ownership means nothing. The person that owns the unit could be 18 years of age, okay? The bottom line is occupancy. Will 80% of the units be occupied by someone age 55 or over? If so, you now qualify as a 55 and over community. But you can lose it, as Raphael was saying, if Raphael's management company or the board doesn't do those surveys that we were talking about, right?
That's right.
So part of maintaining it is having those surveys.
That's right.
So it looks like there's benefits to be had if you are a 55 plus.
Yeah,
Because
so
if you want to keep it.
In my experience, I'm not a real estate expert per se, but you'll find many 55 and older communities, they have appreciation in price, but sometimes they're at a better price point. And reason being is some of them don't permit rentals. So if they don't permit rentals, that means you don't get a high investor pool into the community, which some communities do want. So price appreciation does change, but quality of life within the community for many is much better. So, for instance, we have two 55 and older communities that it's in their documents that they don't permit rentals. And it was done that way originally from the developer. It's never been changed. And the residents like it that way because when they're interacting with individuals, they're interacting with owners. They're using, in many of these 55 and older communities, especially the larger ones, they're full of amenities, pools, card rooms, libraries, and so forth. And the residents want to interact with similar like-minded individuals, and they want it to be owners. So
Yeah, and they don't want to have kids running all over the place.
Yeah, they are a little bit more restrictive, not in a negative way, but they are a little bit more restrictive because they're restricting age. They're restricting whether investors can come in or not. So
They're more accommodating to that population.
So it was designed to create that sense of community with that group of individuals, I guess, to keep it simple.
You mind if we get back to the surveys for 1 second? Just for a second.
Please do.
So under the law, you are required every 2 years, like Raphael was saying, to take these what's called reliable surveys. And you guys got to knock on the door and say, give me your passport, give me your birth certificate, give me your driver's license. Show me, I need to see that someone in that unit is age 55 and over. And a lot of times they don't want to do that, but they have to.
Yeah, that's where it becomes a bit complex. Because, the residents don't understand, especially now with all the security and cyber fraud and all of that, it can become pretty complex to be able to execute that. So that's where maybe a committee, because most of these communities are retired folks, is getting the residents themselves to help
Involved.
in the survey process itself. Yep.
And I find that to be really important because sadly, they are a targeted population.
Yeah, they are. No question about it. That's a really good point.
Yep.
And then what happens when they're sick? Like what happens if there's an elderly person sick in those communities? Who takes responsibility for them?
This happens, yeah. This happens in so many different levels. It could be a physical sickness, but what about when it becomes like an Alzheimer's situation? And we're finding that it happens we can do a whole show on this, quite frankly. The association has no responsibility really in that regard to take care of a sick person. Does that mean they should ignore the person? Of course not. Should they have some information on hand? Maybe they can contact that person's family and say, hey, what's going on? Do they have an obligation to do it? No. But oftentimes, I shouldn't say oftentimes, but sometimes for sure, that person could put the association in harm's way. Like we've had situations where burning 150 candles on the floor, right? Or what's even more common is, hang on for 1 second, what's the word I'm looking for? The garbage that accumulates in the event.
Oh,
hoarders.
Hoarders, yeah.
So we'll go back. What's even more popular, what's happening all the time now, is when people become hoarders. We're finding that this happens in senior communities a lot more than you think it happens. It does, and some of the scenes that come out of units like that, I don't know if you've had any situations.
We had a small one, wasn't too bad, but it was a issue where they were just piling up, and it was just the neighbor could smell it.
Yes, yeah, we've had several situations with that where it becomes not only danger for the person living there, danger for the people around them.
Yeah, it's a fire hazard.
Yes, oh, absolutely.
fire
But, infestation.
Infestation. Yep.
So we got to go into court, get an emergency order, potentially removing that person, to call Department of Children and Families, and they come in, or we may have to get a guardian appointed for that person. So these are the types of issues that do happen in 55 and over communities. And they happen more often than you think, quite frankly.
Yeah, and the Alzheimer's one is the scariest one. We had a situation years ago, and when you were saying your story, I recalled it. And, he lost it. Poor gentleman, he just lost it. But unfortunately, the way he was acting was very threatening to not just the staff, the janitorial staff, because, they were always on, they clean a lot on his floor, and hit the residents next door. So they had to go through a whole vapor act to be able to get him out.
Oh, sure.
And that was a
Yes.
process.
Yes, it
The
is.
association
How long does
had
that
to do
take?
it. I don't recall. I want to say this was actually when I first started the business back. Talk about a welcoming
it's funny
party.
you said that.
Yeah. It was back in 08, but I want to say it was over a year. I want to say it was about 16 months. Because remember, you're trying to pull someone from their home. So it's not like the board felt that, let's just make this happen. And I understood the board's position because he was being threatening, and he would show up, imagine, even showed up to board meetings. So it was a very difficult situation to vapor wrap them, and we never got to go into his unit until they finally got him out. When they got him out, that unit was
Destroyed,
It
yeah.
destroyed.
Want a good story in that regard? Like, not a good story, but a story in that regard that's pretty interesting. Represented an association, and a guy was, obviously having mental problems, and he would take a knife, and we caught him destroying the furniture in the common
wow.
areas,
Wow.
and then he would threaten everybody, tell everybody, I'm AIDS infected, and I'm going to bite you, and I'm going to kill you, and all these crazy things happen. But the people in the community came forward, and we all went to court and swore out affidavits. The whole community did. And yes, he was Baker acted.
Yeah.
So a couple of days after that happened, I'm in my office, and the family calls. And I'm like, uh-oh, here we go. They're going to kill me. And I pick up the phone, and I'm like, is this Mr. Glazer? Yes. Thank you so much for what
wow.
you did.
Wow.
And I thought they were going to kill me, but
Yeah.
thank you so much for what you did. We could not get our family member to go voluntarily, so by doing what you did, at least he's getting medical attention now.
Yeah.
So,
Which is, again, it goes back to the importance of having a partner, right? So you were seeing, I know I've said it before, but we're seeing more with the 55 and older communities, the ones that have been self-managed, looking for that support.
Yes, like I know like fair housing has to do with no discrimination for race or, religion or all this stuff. But here in South Florida, it seems like the 55 and over community, it can be a little bit complex to handle all the
all the things that
happen.
come with 55 and over people. Yeah.
What happens, but can other people, well, you mentioned they can live with them, like as long as 85%,
As long as 80% is the floor.
80%
right.
is the main.
Right. Now, everybody gets confused with that 80% number, if I may. So a lot of times people will say, well, you guys are at 90%. So I'm now going to move in, I'm 30, I'm 35, whatever. And you have to take me because you're already at 90. If you take me in, you're still going to be at 89%. Do they have to take that person? Absolutely not. Then the 80% is just a floor. You could require 100%, but you qualify as a 55 and over community if you hit 80%.
What are the benefits of being, Just from looking at the
Yeah.
people getting sick and Alzheimer's, it doesn't
Well-
seem like a very like.
Yeah, well, we're looking at that. Yeah, I mean, obviously, we've talked about the challenges of it, but there are many benefits. I mean, if again, they're very amenity rich.
Got it.
Most of these
Okay.
communities, not all, because some of them are more affordable in the sense that maybe amenities aren't there, so the maintenance fees are a little bit less. I have found that the 55 and older community are better priced as well. So when they're amenity rich, they're well priced. And when they're amenity rich, if you're retired, I mean, who wants to sit down inside their condo the entire day? They want to be around like-minded individuals that are retired or semi-retired, whatever it may be. You'll normally find pools, events in the pools. There'll be a lot more of a lifestyle component, if you will, within the community that relate directly to the community. So as an example, we had a community that was a French-Canadian community, predominantly French Canadians that were there 5 months out of the year. So during those 5 months, you had card games, you had board games, you had pontoon on a lake. They had a pontoon parade. So the other 4 to 6 months that they're not there, that's when we focus on the maintenance of the community. You still had maybe a pocket of about 20% of them there, but then that's when we focused on the maintenance. When the retirees were in, we focused on the lifestyle. When they were gone, we focused on the maintenance of the community. So I think they're phenomenal communities if someone wants to live in them. There's many benefits from both those that aren't amenity rich, because at least you're with like-minded individuals, to those that are amenity rich.
And you'll be over 55 one day too.
Yeah,
and you
I'm-
may
Never.
like the
It's
peace
not
and
going
quiet.
Well, can't you tell that I've already looked at a couple?
They like the peace and quiet of being able to say no children here.
Yeah, that's right. That's a great point.
right.
Yeah.
So when discriminating against families because they have small children, it's not applicable because
Correct,
of,
right. Under the law, a community that's not a 55 and over community, you can't discriminate against people with children. You can't discriminate against families. But if you're a 55 and over community, you are allowed to discriminate against families. That's the big deal under the law, being a 55 and over community.
Yeah. I think it's important, Eric. I think it would be great to touch on, because I know we've had the situation where, especially in the summers, right, where a granddaughter that's going to college, that's maybe 19 years old, comes over with her best friend. Maybe you could touch up a little bit of how you've dealt with that.
Yeah, so sometimes you'll have grandchildren
Yeah.
live there for an extraordinary amount of time.
Correct.
I'll throw another one at you. If the child of the owner can live there, right? So in other words, if the child is, let's say, in their 20s,
Yeah.
perfect, they can live with their parents, right? As long as one person is age 55 or over. What happens if that person gets pregnant and now has a baby, right? Can the baby live there? No, the baby cannot live there. So now what do you do? So now the mom and the baby have to go. And that's where you really get into,
That's where the sticky
potential
situation-
potential legal battles. And they happen more often than you think. They happen.
So there's pros and cons. You have
You
to
gotta
definitely,
take
as a
it.
resident, weigh them. But ultimately, again, we're talking about the challenging sides. The cases do occur. What frequency? I wouldn't have enough facts to be able to tie it to that.
What areas are the most common areas that have, like, is it everywhere? I feel like a little, I've never heard of this before.
Yeah, I would look in Dade. They exist. I would say at Broward, Palm Beach, the numbers grow much higher in the further north. I can tell you from the West Coast side as well. You're seeing them because
Naples,
and
yeah.
they're building them even with golf courses. So that are very amenity rich. There's several large ones in Broward and Palm Beach. So they do exist.
Dear Lord, I'm at awe because I would never think that kids would not be allowed to. That feels like counter, like.
Yeah, it feels wrong to you?
Yeah, it feels. Yeah, there's something that is like.
It feels
and
very
then-
right to them.
Remember, they're retired. They've been there, done that.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, to each their own. But yeah, they created them for a reason. There is and I could say that it allows them to kind of go back to their own thing. Like, they're already in the way out, so they're just like, we're just gonna have fun.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's why the amenities are there. The hard part that maybe doesn't get talked about a lot is, I mean, now like with those that are, most of them are, I shouldn't say most because there's a little bit all over the place, but the hardest part is of managing in outside of the age restriction is when it comes to the finance side of it. You know, fortunately enough now with the structural integrity reserves for those that are 3-story and higher, that is mandatory. It's been a very difficult pill to swallow because in many of these communities, they've taken they've taken the position that I'm not going to be here in a couple of years. Why am I going to put money into reserves? So from a management standpoint, it becomes very difficult because you want these amenities to be maintained. That's why many people move into these 55
It's
and
a
older
community.
Yeah, but I get it.
Yeah.
On the other side, I understand a bit of the argument. I don't agree. I can understand, but not agree is we're on fixed incomes. So we worked hard and this is what we make. We don't have excess income to say we need to pass a special assessment. You're seeing that in one particular large community in Broward area, Century Village area, where they've had the challenges of having to pass these special assessments because they need to catch up.
Yep. That's clearly the biggest problem facing 55 and over communities now as a result of the new laws in Florida that mandatory inspections, mandatory repairs, mandatory reserves, their assessments are going up. Yeah. And, you know, Raphael indicated a lot of these people in the 55 and over communities didn't want to put money away for a roof, because I'm not going to be alive when the roof needs to be replaced in 20 years. The joke I always make is, well, you got unlucky, you lived, right?
Oh my
that's
God.
the reality of it, right? That's the reality of it. That's, you know, so they didn't want to put money away, and now the bill has come due.
Yeah.
You know, did you not think that your building was going to need repairs one day?
That's right.
You've been waiving reserves and waiving it, and now, guess what? Your building needs a new roof, your building needs new plumbing, your building needs a whole bunch of things. And you have to come up with it. And if you can't come up with it, then I hate to say it, but you can potentially get foreclosed on. Yeah. So what are buildings doing? Buildings are taking out long-term loans, but whichever way you look at it, their assessments are going to go way up. Why is it going way up? In a lot of circumstances, because you didn't want to put away $25 a month for the last 30 years.
30 years, yeah.
You waived it, and now, like I said, the bills come due.
Yeah. Yeah, it's difficult because many of them were sold a dream years ago, right? Low maintenance fees, moved to Florida, and so forth. But at the end of the day, you can't keep blaming the developer. The developer was gone 30 plus years ago. You've been on that in that position, whatever the length of time is. So yeah, that's become very difficult. The beauty of it is, the way I see it, looking at the optimistic side of things, is that now, at least condo associations now really understand what the true cost of living in a condo association is. You could still waive a small portion, but at least the main portions, the structural integrity portion, you can no longer waive that. So at least the safety, the life safety components, the roofs, and so forth are required. So if you're 55 and older and considering moving into an association, check to make sure they have the structural integrity reserves passed, because even though it was law, some may have not passed it.
Right.
But now at least they'll know what the true cost is going to be to live in that community.
But you're right, a lot of these people were lied to. Yeah. I remember when I lived in New York, there used to be commercials. Come on down to Century Village.
I remember you showing.
You're saying
I think
it, yeah.
You found once a
clip of it, right?
Like.
And it said, come on down, and for $200 a month, you have boating, and you have tennis, and you have all these shows, and you have this, right? But what I always say is the true story is, yes, it's $200 plus your share of $30 million in repairs 25 years from now.
Yeah.
That's what they didn't know.
Yeah.
So, here we are today.
Okay, so we touched extensively on the 55 and over, and I want to touch at least for a tiny bit on, do we often see any unfair, because it's fair housing laws for other communities, Section 8, or anything that has to do with religion, or, like because you look Muslim or because you look a certain way. Is that still something that we see here? Do they have protections? How can they protect themselves? Like, help?
Yeah, those are great questions. I'll start with the Section 8 one, because that's an important one. Many boards sometimes believe that they have the right to allow a Section 8 in or out, and the reality is that they don't have that ability at all. They have a right to approve residents if it's within their documents, number one. but they don't have a right to say, okay, we don't permit Section 8 within our community. There's also religious ties to it. So I'll let Eric on a doorway. Oh, I forgot.
Yeah, that's right.
You're permitted. So you have some boards,
Yeah.
like we've been asked, oh, why do they have that? I go, because they have the right to have that. They have the right to have that. So
What is it? What is it,
Like to
man?
put a religious display.
Display.
Like a
on
cross
the
or
side of
something?
the cross.
Cross.
Jewish people have a mezuzah that they put on the
That's
side of the
mezuzah,
door.
yeah.
Right. So in Florida, everybody now has the right to do that. Something to play as a religious display on the side of your door.
Side of the door.
Yeah, correct. Right. So you do have religious rights when you live in a condo. That's correct.
That's right.
Believe it or not, the HOA statute doesn't have it.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't, but the condo statute has
Oh,
it.
wow. Interesting.
Here's a question. This is like a. So we give away certain rights when we go in homeowners association, but what if they're against religion or anything like that? Like that's
So
that conflict?
we spoke about that earlier, and like you're saying, associations have the right sometimes to screen, approve, and reject people. And typically you have people fill out forms, right? Fill out paperwork, and they look at it and they say, okay, this looks okay, let's go on to an interview, right? And I think we both agree that once that person moves on to the interview process, you're approved.
You're approved,
You
yeah.
better approve
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
Because what sometimes happens is, okay, they pass the paperwork, they'll set them down for an interview, and then suddenly after an interview, no, we're going to reject you. And we know where that's coming from, right? I think we could admit oftentimes where that's coming from. There's something about the look of that person that they didn't like.
Yeah.
And man, could that get the association in some serious trouble. And then, yes, you're going to be asked by the federal government to produce every time that you rejected somebody, every time you approved somebody, what was your process, how did it work, what did the person look like, and it's going to be a mess for you. And yes, you're going to wind up at the defense table in a federal courtroom.
Yeah, and it's important to add that you'll have, even in some cases, and I get where they're coming from, is that they want like a credit score, and they don't even have the ability of requesting a credit score from an owner. Let's not even go into the tenant portion. You know, why? Like I've never really understood, why do you need a credit score if they got their mortgage approved? What's the purpose of it? From a tenant side, I can understand it, but you know, as a board, if you want to put restrictions, let's say on tenant, then you need to make sure that you're permitted to do so within the documents. Because if you don't have what's the minimum score within the documents, you don't have the rights to be able to do that. So then that's where the whole discrimination thing can come. Like, oh, you're discriminating me. You're going
to be accused even if you're really not doing
if you're
it.
not
That I
really
can tell
doing
you.
anything. Yeah,
Right.
they could have bankruptcy on it, but you say, oh, I want a minimum score of 600. They have a bankruptcy, but if you don't have that in your documents that state that specific language, you don't have the right. And
Can those things be in the documents?
oh yes,
They
yes.
better be in the documents.
They better be in
yeah.
the documents. Yeah.
Yeah.
If they're not, then you can amend the documents if that's a priority or a vision of your board of directors. The residents are going to need to vote and agree to it. I can tell you, from my experience, the investors aren't going to vote for it because investors want tenants in their units. So, you know, we get many times, you know, the application process, what it is it's a filtering process for like really minimal reasons. There's only truly one or two reasons that you could deny someone is a specific criminal intent. And you have to check with the attorney what that specific is.
Even that's become harder
and
now.
even that's
Yeah.
become harder.
Yeah.
So it's really, the way I look at it is, okay, it's your capture of information so that you know who's moving into the community. You've done your due diligence on a bare minimum at least.
Is
and
there
then providing
anything that it's like okay to say if in my application there's this, and this, and this, or if they have criminal record, is that something that they can deny someone application? Because if they cannot deny them, why the hell are we doing that?
The federal government allows you to deny somebody if they've ever been convicted for the sale and manufacture of drugs. That's it. Someone with a drug
That's
conviction.
the only
that's
thing
it.
that they can use?
No. If someone, let's say, has had a violent felony conviction within the last 7 years, for example, then yes, you can deny them for that too.
Only those two things.
Pretty much now.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah. But what we say is, like, from a management standpoint, is if you're ever going to deny someone, deny it on legal letterhead. That's our, like, we try our best. Does it always happen? No, but if it doesn't, there's a CYA somewhere. And it's
Have
not
the
from
lawyer
us.
do it. Thank you.
Have the lawyer
Yeah.
do it. Yeah, because we're following the business judgment rule, right? We don't want to get the association in a bad position. He's not going. Any firm is not going to give you a
Yeah.
no without doing their legwork and their
Their due
research.
diligence.
There's going to be basis there. They're going to have a basis of why they're going to send that, because now you can't just send a denial to say you're denying. Why are you denying? That's where it gets very tricky.
Yep, exactly.
And that really started with Broward. That started a local ordinance, and then it went on from there. So that started maybe 5-10 years ago. But because you had board members, unfortunately, denying people just
Because
just saying
they
deny.
did, just
Yeah,
denied. Yeah.
deny.
You know what? I don't like their ethnical background.
Right.
He has a
He has an
Hispanic
accent.
background, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
That and it's bad. It doesn't always happen, but now that got corrected.
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, fair housing laws.
The topics you
Interesting.
love talking about, I know.
Don't blame me. Like, the people from our association are asking questions. All right, so let's wrap it up. So
Sure.
what could people take away from this conversation? Basically, there's 2 reasons why you can have people.
Well, if you want peace and quiet, well, you know what? I don't know if that's true. I was going to say, if you want peace and quiet, move to a 55 and over community. But I think we both agree their nightlife and their social life may be better than ours. That's
Probably,
for sure. Some of these
probably.
communities
So I
are
heard.
fantastic.
Probably,
Yes.
Yeah.
probably.
You want? All right.
I
You want?
heard
You want a
more happens
statistics?
in- I hope more
You
happen in those than South Beach, but yeah.
Right. The greatest statistic of all time out there. What's the community on the west coast of Florida in Ocala? The
my
villages.
good-
The
the
villages.
villages, yes,
I
yes.
heard this. I'm just passing on the information. The number 1 place in the state of Florida for sexually transmitted diseases.
Yeah.
The villages.
Well, that's why I said some party more than South
Right.
Beach.
Exactly. True. Very true.
That I did heard.
Yeah, you
That
did.
is like their
Yes, exactly. So it might not be so bad in the 55 and over community.
Tinder, yes, no.
Yeah.
All right, so anything else that we want to, any resources, anything that people can get from to help them through housing and fair housing?
There's resources on the internet that you can go to for HUD. HUD has guidelines regarding 55 and over communities. A lot of people think that you still have to register as a 55 and over community. You no longer have to register. That's been removed by the federal government. But HUD is a good place to go to regarding all kinds of questions. Suppose the people leave for 6 months a year. Those types of questions are answered
Okay.
really well on the internet.
Okay. And Eric, how could they reach you if they want to get more information on that?
All right. You can give Glazer and Sachs a call, 954-983-1112, or just visit our website at glazersachs.com.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Eric. Always a pleasure to have you
It's been an honor
on.
to serve with you today.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
For us, if we have definitely some lifestyle components, if you're looking to put together an event, we have some basic checklists for different types of events that you could put within your 55 and older community. To reach us, you could reach us at our website, managedbyaffinity.com. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, managedbyaffinity.com, and we'll see you in the next one, no?
See you in the next one.